Hello, and thank you for joining us for the first of the Pando Days 24-25 Spring Term Project premieres. My name is Eugene Shirley, President of Pando Populous. I'm pinch hitting tonight for Matthew Manos, who is the regular host of these premiere events. Pando Days is the program that makes it easy for young people to do something for the world and for their communities. Today, we'll get to see for the first time what the Pando Days 24-25 spring term project teams have been up to. We follow a standard format in all of these premier events. Each team is given 15 to 20 minutes to present summaries of their projects, followed by roughly 30 minutes or so of Q&A from a panel of experts. These events are recorded. Then over the summer, the recordings along with all project materials will be posted on each team's dedicated webpage to be found on the pandopopulous.com website. Projects are then judged by a distinguished panel of specialists with honors and prizes passed out and networking opportunities galore happening at the Pando Sustainability Awards, the largest event of its kind, and you'll be part of it. That'll be in the fall. Stay tuned for more details. So let's get going. Today, we'll be hearing from Cal State University Northridge with a number of great CSUN projects happening over the last semester. The team is led by Professor Cassie Rouser and is titled Origin LA. The project is designed to help increase food security by means of a digital platform that creates opportunities for neighbors to share excess produce. I can't wait to hear more. Cassie, it's wonderful to have you and your team here. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. There we go. Can you see us okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, thank you.
Los Angeles was born from the soil, literally. Our city's founders saw the promise in the land, and for decades, LA was the largest agricultural county in the United States. Today, we have the opportunity to reconnect with that legacy, turn our neighborhoods back into places where food is grown, shared, and celebrated. And that's where our Origin LA comes in, bringing us back to our roots by connecting people to fresh, local, growing food right beneath our feet, and building a community that thrives together from the ground up.
Thank you for having our team share with you today. To begin, Origin LA is a community-driven digital platform that connects growers with their neighborhoods and neighbors in need to reduce food waste and address food insecurity. With our app, home gardeners, community gardens, and farmers markets can share their surplus produce for free, ensuring that it reaches those who need it the most, and while simultaneously eliminating potential food waste. Through community engagement and partnerships with local food organizations, Origin LA will foster a network of generosity and sustainability, making it easier for neighbors to support one another and create a greater community resiliency.
Here's our team. I'm Em.
I'm Hector Felix.
I'm Jesus Lear.
I'm Annalisa Cassidy.
I'm Sean Martinez.
And I'm Dawes Pangelina Norman.
We're a team made up of 6 graduate students from the Masters in Sustainability program at CSU Northridge, in partnership, as you know, with Dr. Cassie Rouser. So we're addressing food insecurity and food waste in the context of community connection. This ties into 2 of our county plan goals. Goal 1, resilient and healthy community environments where residents thrive in place. And goal 10, a sustainable and just food system that enhances access to affordable, local, and healthy food.
Food insecurity is a term used by the USDA to describe when individuals or families lack reliable access to enough food. It means they might not know where their next meal is coming from. This is a serious issue across the US, affecting around 47 million people, including 14 million children. In the Los Angeles metropolitan area, the situation is especially concerning. As of September 2024, about 21% of all households and 25% of households with children face food insecurity.
Food insecurity is also coupled with food deserts. Food deserts are urban areas in which it is difficult to buy or access affordable or good quality fresh food. This map depicts South Los Angeles specifically, where it shows the distribution of food sources across varying income levels. Depicted in the green are grocery stores, and depicted in red are fast food restaurants. With this, you can see that the higher income communities, highlighted in a green shade, include more grocery stores, while the lower income, depicted in shades of pink and red, show an ample amount of fast food sources while lacking the presence of grocery stores. This shows the need for these affected communities to get connected with healthy food options. Origin LA is bridging this gap and inventing a way to connect neighborhoods to better food sources to alleviate the impacts from food deserts. This slide further adds to what was previously shown, but is looking at Los Angeles County as a whole. It is important to note that the higher income communities are depicted in a bright red color, while the low income communities are represented by yellow. As you can see from the grocery stores, which are depicted as mini shopping carts, and the large red circles as fast food restaurants, there is a trend of more grocery stores being located in higher income communities, further showing certain communities being burdened by these food deserts.
As we go deeper into food insecurity, we want to look at specifically low-income households' access to food distribution sites. So within this study from 2020 to 2019, it indicates that the US alone, only 22 to 45% of food insecure and low-income households reported using food pantries. So still leaving a big gap of about 60% of low-income households still not using food pantries or food distribution sites. So as for Origin LA, how can we fill this gap that exists among food insecure and low-income households? Also, how can we make food and especially fresh produce more accessible?
Despite this gap where people aren't getting access to food, there is still a lot of food waste. Roughly 4,000 tons of food waste is generated in Los Angeles County every day. CalRecycle estimates that 1.5% of California's yearly solid waste for the whole state is potentially donatable produce. This percentage roughly translates to 450,000 tons of potentially donatable produce from LA County being landfilled. You can see in the graph from 2018 to 2020, LA County made up about 30% of the state's entire food waste in the solid waste disposal stream. Why is this a major issue? It's because decomposition of organic waste in landfills produces methane, a very potent greenhouse gas. So this is the EPA's wasted food scale that goes from a range of most preferred method of dealing with food waste to least preferred. The preventing wasted food obviously being the most important, donating or upcycling being the second most important, and then composting, and then you want to avoid sending down the drain, landfill, or incineration. Most of the current policy is focused on avoiding landfill or incineration. This is about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Fortunately, these policies have improved food recovery and redistribution, but it's somewhat indirectly, although it's still very much a net positive. In the state of California, SB 1383 is covering all of California. Its goal is to reduce organic waste from landfills 75% by 2025, so 75% of 2014 levels. There are requirements for certain businesses to donate potential food waste to food recovery organizations, but there's no specifications for residents. What did change for residents is the items accepted into the green bin. In addition to yard trimmings, you can now put food waste and paper contaminated from food waste into these bins. Organics LA, different from Origin LA, is specifically from the city of Los Angeles for residents served by LA Sanitation and Environment. This is mandated by SB 1383 and is a curbside recycling program. So it's those plastic kitchen pails that are given to residents to put in their households. These containers have the same rules as the green bin, as they are emptied into the larger green waste bin whenever they're full. So what does this mean for residents? Let's say you have a fruit tree in your backyard that makes a ton of fruit. Current management practices make the easiest thing to do, dump excess fruit into the green bin rather than give it to a neighbor, donate it, or locally compost it.
The Regional A Our mission is to address both food insecurity and food waste here in Los Angeles. We're doing this by using a digital platform that brings communities together. Our aim is to create healthier, more resilient neighborhoods where everyone has access to fresh and locally grown food.
From our research and intention to address our county plan goals 1 and 2, we believe the best place to launch Origin LA is South Los Angeles. And you might be asking yourself, how do we do that? How does that look? So with Origin LA's ability to coordinate with growers and neighborhoods and make comprehensive location-specific strategies, we can help build. Starting off from the left side of the community cycle, our first plan is to connect neighbor-to-neighbor relationships by having fresh produce sharing, and also connect folks with local fresh produce from growers and local organizations. This will build resilience and healthy community environments where residents can thrive in place. Next, circling to the right, we will encourage greater community engagement by acknowledging food waste and educating communities with resources and benefits of composting. And finally, encompassing our vision, we want to highlight the word grow. This is a layered term. This does not only mean enhancing to a local just food system in South Los Angeles, but more importantly, the growth between neighbor to neighbor relationships.
When we think about Origin LA, we think about what it is. And basically, it's resiliency in your own hand. When someone doesn't know what to do with the compost or the fallen fruit, they ask, well, what do I have? I have extra food. What do I do with it? We hope that our program allows to allow neighbors to make posts that can increase engagement to someone across the street. They can give that excess produce to someone else who is in need. And this allows for more people to connect, and even with donation centers. So we hope that we can provide more points where people can donate and access food. Next, we think about connection and engagement, and I think this is the most important aspect of why we decided to create Origin LA. Our connection and the engagement needs to be fostered, and we believe that Origin LA will help do that. This will allow people in the neighborhood to find out what's growing on in their neighborhood. Also, neighbors can get more access to produce from other people, and I think we have to stress that more, because when we're connected, we thrive better. And lastly, finding nearby places to get fresh produce. So I have a few examples in the next slide of how that would look. So when someone logs on to Origin LA's community, they'll get a nice welcome. Hey, let's grow, let's share and thrive together. That's our premises. When they connect, they'll be able to, once launching obviously in South Los Angeles, they enter their zip code, which then will allow them to be pulled into a specific location, because that is our focus right now. And we could see how other communities can also be added into this greater project. We envision a simplified onboarding, because there are so many apps out there, and we want to keep this process as simple as possible, and also keeping integrity to someone's identity. So that's important to us too. Let's say, for example, Hector signs on, he logs into his account and searches for access hubs within Los Angeles, South LA. And he is allowed to see nearby gardens. He's able to see community gardens and farmers markets. And this is all within his own hand. Other possibilities, we could imagine how a community member or a neighborhood can see their impact, so they can track their progress and allow them to create more of a sense of community within their own community. And I believe that the possibilities are endless. Thinking about potential partners was crucial, and obviously growth is more than just growing a community, it's also growing food and distributing food and resources. We sort of see how Los Angeles We want to see Los Angeles focus on increasing fresh food production through urban agricultural community gardens, and especially in low-income communities and immigrant communities as well. Organizations like CSUN, like Crop Swap, like Community Gardens Council helps to organize and provide education, resources, and support people to start and maintain their gardens, turning vacant lots into productive green spaces and boosting access to health and affordable food. And additionally, increased distribution, which allows organizations to, again, redistribute and give those fallen fruit like Do Good LA is doing. We will be able to create that sort of, I would say, nexus, I believe. Together, growth and distribution efforts ensures more food is produced locally and that it's readily reached to people facing food insecurity.
So Origin LA and our solution. First is to enhance access to local and healthy produce by connecting community members and increasing neighbor-to-neighbor communication. So how are we going to do that? We're going to boost local programs such as composting facilities to help manage produce as it perishes. We want to emphasize how local composting is more important than commercial composting helps to engage in growing your own local produce. Also, we want to link partner organizations with community members to encourage public meetups. We also want to enhance and share educational content in various subjects such as growing food and consumption, providing educational tools to build community resilience and tools for the individual and community success.
All right, thank you so much. That was Origin LA. Do you want us to close our, stop sharing the screen?
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, it's extremely exciting, and I'm excited by the way that it both addresses food needs and food insecurity concerns and this kind of thing, as well as strengthening community bonds. So it's really, really interesting, that kind of dual opportunity there. So let's hear from our panel. They have roughly 30 minutes or so for an informal back and forth discussion with you, Cassie, and your team, to think about where this could go and to understand more about the project. With us today, Margot Kedushim. Margot is a member of the Pando team, but comes to us with an extremely strong and interesting background in food, as a restaurateur, as a caterer. She had her own cooking show on television, on NBC, I believe. And then she was board chair of Pasadena's Union Station for Homeless Services. Many of you will know of that. And so as you were going through your presentation, I thought, gosh, it's wonderful to have Margot here, because this is just exactly the area that she's interested in and has been all of her life. And Natalie Flores. Also, it's wonderful to have you here. And once again, I thought you're just ideal to be a respondent for this. Natalie founded the nonprofit Nourish LA in response to the COVID pandemic. It now feeds over 1,000 people a week. She has also been helping to transform yards, parkways, businesses, and community gardens into food forests and biodiversity havens. So Natalie, great to have you here. Let me go ahead and introduce also another member of the Pando team, Lynn Goldfarb. Some of you will have known Lynn for some time now, working with the various Pando Days projects. She's a documentary filmmaker of great distinction and has always been helping on the creative storytelling side. Lynn, you come in whenever you want to and think of questions or anything that you would like to say, and comments and questions to ask.
One of my questions is, well, first of all, I think it's a really great app. I have a thing with technology. I kind of loathe it. A lot of the times it drives me nuts. I want to put it away and throw it in the garbage half the time. But one of the things that I find that's really important that I wasn't answered is this app going to be in multiple languages? Because if we're talking about South Central and communities that speak other languages, is this app, are you guys trying to make it in Spanish and other languages so that people can utilize it?
Our goal would be to make it the most as accessible as we can. None of us are really language experts on our team, so we didn't really build that out. We would have to find people who do translation and work with that. But that is definitely, making the app more accessible is something we'd have to work with specific organizations or people who need that accessibility feature. So we'd be planning to work with those people in the future.
Yeah, like if on the first page when you're creating your profile, it'd say what's your preferred language, and then the whole app would be in your preferred language.
Yes, definitely. Actually, that's a great question. And I also want to say within that same breath, we also want to acknowledge that there's differences in culture. So location is a big deal, but we didn't think about language. We were just trying to make sure we encounter the differences in food and how some people are, different. But that is definitely a great note and great question.
I didn't even think about that. And South Alabama is certainly a place where Spanish and English is really
Yeah, because I recognize that in your slides, you're talking, you focused on South Central Los Angeles. I'm like, okay, well, that's primarily Latino and Spanish is the main language spoken there. So that's important. Another question, I mean, if you're ready, are you ready? Is your headset on? You can go ahead.
Can you hear me now? Now, is that better?
Amazing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to start over because I think you needed to understand where I was coming from. And as I stated previously, which you didn't hear, my background was over 40 years in the wholesale produce industry. We were in retail and wholesale. So I totally understand what it is to have product and also to have spoilage and what you need to do with a product when it looks like it's not going to make it any longer. And so I think your concept is fabulous because of all the food insecurity in our world today. But how are you going to have the people be aware of this wonderful app that you have so they know where they can get this product from?
That's a great question. I can start off with the answer. I think you guys all agree that grassroots organization is extremely important. I think that when thinking about the demographics that we have, and especially people in minority communities, tend to garden. I myself garden. A lot of our families have gardens or even small patches, even if it's like 2x2, 4x4. There's always something growing, and I believe that word of mouth is important. You have families working with each other, and I can imagine that being able to start something really small, and if it makes an impact, word of mouth is going to be our bread and butter. Also, of course, marketing, obviously. Being able to access communities that may not be susceptible to apps, but offering the ability to, hey, check out our app, check out all of the great resources we have. And I think when we talk about education, that should also be stressed, because one of the things that stops us from doing something is just not having the knowledge or the tools. And we say, hey, we have the tools, we have the knowledge, and hopefully, that spreads our word of mouth a little farther.
Have you thought about possibly making it available to your app once the app is created and you've got it running, to let the schools know in your various neighborhoods? So that way that would go home to the families. I mean, I have fruit trees in my neighborhood right now on my property, and I'm forever looking for people to give away my lemons and my oranges to.
Same.
So, come on over. I've got them there. But neighbor next door, that app that we have that we can connect to, that's a great place to spread the word. So these are all things to get the word out, and that's what you want to do.
Right.
Yeah, so we talked about leveraging existing types of community apps or social types of apps like Nextdoor to help get the word out, but then those partnerships that are deeply embedded with the community, the real community-based organizations. But the schools and the children, that's always a good entryway into any community, quite honestly, and they're all on their phones, right? So
That's the best connection.
And the cool thing about the app is not just the ability to share the food, right? But to share the best practices and the thing, oh, in gardening, I do it this way, or I use these ways to manage pests. And so they can share the ways that they're doing this in their own yards with each other as well and build that community too.
I have to share a tip with you. Since you're talking about that, just as a free throw in, my husband's notorious thing for a lot of his plants are white vinegar and Dawn to get rid of pests. So that's something non-toxic, so you can pass that
100%.
along too.
Yeah,
100%.
and strike some cinnamon in there too.
Yep.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
So, I have a friend, and I think, first of all, it's a great project. And I think it's got a lot of potential. I have a friend in South LA who has a lot of fruit trees. And I know one of the obstacles for her, and she's been doing some trading with people, is she's older and having people to come in and pick the produce. Pick the fruit, pick the persimmons off the tree, and then you get in issues of privacy. I mean, there's a lot with that, and I think that it would be great to have something, or the volunteers to go, pick off, the fruit off a tree.
Yeah, you're talking about accountability.
Do you want to talk about, so we had a conversation with Crop Swap LA, and if you're not familiar with that organization, they actually will come in and do that in the area in which they work. So they have volunteers and or folks that work with and for them that will go to your property and harvest the fruit from your trees. And they actually sell the fruit. So they have a CSA program. And they deliver just very locally. They do operate in South LA. So they just deliver to a couple of different zip codes, but we've had conversations with them. And that's the type of partner that would be really important in this type of app, because you can connect people that way to organizations like them if you have that type of need.
Well, wouldn't that also depend on the volume of product that you're yielding? If it's several trees, a lot of product, then you would be interested in a crop swap LA. If it's just a small amount, wouldn't it simply be that whoever the homeowner is who has this product picks their own and provides it to whoever the end user is going to be? Is that how you're seeing it?
Yes.
That's how I'm kind of envisioning it.
Yes, both of them. Yes, and.
Yes, and okay, so there's many options. And what is your goal to possibly have this launched by?
That's a great question. It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on constructing the app itself, finding a platform for it. We're meeting up with partners, their timeline. So we don't know exactly a timeline of this app, but that's because there are so many factors to it that we have yet to sort of map out.
So right now it's just a concept.
Yeah.
Because the one thing you have to keep in mind in California is we have seasons, definitive seasons, where as you structure this app, think along those lines, especially where we live here in the southern end. There's certain times of the year where we don't have the yield on our trees and where things aren't really growing. So if you kind of think along that, your spring and summer would be a more ideal time to possibly promote your app. In the winter, there isn't a lot available growing wise, unless it's like apples, and then you're going to be in a whole different area that won't be necessarily in the areas that you've put on the maps you have.
I also, that was a great question. Thinking about what time of the year's food accessibility is smaller, I suppose. And if this were to launch, I think after summer, but moving into fall, when we think about harvest, we think about Thanksgiving or any other tradition that involves around sharing crops. And so that would be a really big marketing push, and could, it may be successful.
I like that. I like the harvest, sharing the harvest around fall. That's really beautiful. And there's actually all kinds of stuff to be shared, not just fruits and vegetable. There's herbs, medicinals. There's eggs. Some people have backyard chickens. I did want to come back to Lynn. You were talking about like your friend's a senior and she's got a tree, and sometimes it's hard for them to harvest. We had this issue too when we started Nourish LA, and we found lots of people wanted to donate, but a lot of the people that have these prolific trees, they can't climb a 50-foot avocado tree. So we did the same thing as Crop Swap. We went and rescued all the food, but we then redirected it to people that needed it. We didn't sell it. We said, hey, there's enough for everybody. And we brought it back to our big distribution where we feed over 1,000 people. And I think one of the things you guys can actually build is a community of volunteers too, that you guys can say, hey, are you willing, propose the question, are you willing to be a volunteer to help pick somebody else's fruit? That way, if somebody like your friend Lynn needed help, she can message those couple neighbors that have maybe like there's a little icon next to their name that says volunteer, or like a little vest or some kind of icon, so that they can also reach out. That's a resource, right? And if it's connection that we're really utilizing, that neighbor to neighbor connection, I think it would be so beneficial for local neighbors to be able to call upon other neighbors instead of large organizations, because they're busy too, Sometimes that's the most efficient. And then something else I wanted to say is, I think if you guys launch this in the fall, one of the easy ways to get people to sign up on your app is through what's called a food swap. Back in the day, I was part of the Organic Learning Garden here in Venice, and we would do fruit shares all the time. So doing a big community day where neighbors get to meet their neighbors, everyone picks things that are in the trees, but you have a party, you have a celebration. And that way people get just to have FaceTime. And then there's someone there from your team that says, hey, you guys, we developed this app. This is supposed to make it more, efficient if you don't have time to come to these events or whatever, but here's a great resource for you. Just an idea for you guys. The reason that we've been able to gain such a huge following and network is just from our events and just being really neighborly and showing up. So I wanted to throw that to you guys, is just doing like a big fruit share in the community that you launch the app.
No, definitely, thank you. That's a great idea.
So one of the things that that the students talked about was building that community resilience, and maybe you were going to speak to that, Das.
Oh, I had a point on that as well.
Yeah, please.
Because we want to build community resilience, a lot of that is building neighbor to neighbor connections, and I think that having an event rather than just like a name on your screen, that's a little intimidating. You don't know who that is. But if you start out with an event and you meet people and you see their real faces and you're like, oh, this is my neighbor Jerry and he has a cool lemon tree and I always need lemons. It's putting a face in front of you. And that's also part of the reason we selected our partners fairly carefully, is that these are people who have done work in LA, not all of them in South LA, but a lot of them have worked in the community, they've built trust with the community. So we want these people who are integrated within this area, who know what they're doing, rather than just some team from college showing up asking, hey, do you want to trade fruit?
So do you have the partnerships already in place, or are these potential partners that you are going to be contacting?
As of right now, because this is still a concept, it's still potential partnership, but we have had conversations with Crop Swap LA, and they seem willing to work with us, but that also depends on our project and all of the things that come with developing a project like this.
Yeah, we sort of see all of the partnerships, if we can access them. They're kind of like a funnel into our project. And then we are able to funnel resources from volunteers who come from those organizations. And then we just kind of become that like connection point, so to speak.
Like a nexus of the growers and the distributors and the community.
Yeah, and we just become the platform in which that deeper connection can grow.
So CLA, I don't know if you're in contact with them. They're the network of farmers markets. And they do have some of the farmers that do, I mean, they've made a priority actually in setting up markets in South LA and other underserved areas. So I don't know if you're in contact with them at all, but I can give you their information.
Not yet. We love their information. Thank you very much.
Because they have a big farmers market in Hollywood and they have other bigger markets, but I know that that they've really been working to get farmers markets in, South LA. I mean, I just want to say that I think it's a little bit complicated if you're not in South LA, to be doing it for another community.
I actually do live in South LA.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Because I think that's really important part of it. And there are a lot of, as you know, then a lot of good local institutions that.
Yeah. So this idea came about because of the interest that the students had in the types of topics and targets and goals and the plans that they were most interested in. And me literally taking walks in my neighborhood every day, and I'm like, there's so many fruit trees and they're just falling all over, and I want some of those kumquats. Like, how do I get to know this person and exchange things with them? And if they're outside, I actually just go up and ask them, right? And I say, oh, I have pears. Do you want some pears? Could I have some of these? So the idea came up in the conversations because of my experience there, in that there are a lot of folks, it's multi-generations of folks living around me. So sometimes it's a family with like 3 different homes, and like their grandkids are here, their kids are here and they still live here. And so there's a lot of old trees and a lot of fruit growing. And like Das said, there's just a ton of gardening happening and growing happening. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, so.
Yeah, I just was gonna say that the another contact would be the city council offices, and what Marquise Harris Dawson, who's for city council 10, one of his key deputies is a regular farmers market person in at least Hollywood. So I think I could give you again her name as well. I think she'd be very sympathetic if you're, reaching her, because I see her in the market all the time.
Do they run the Crenshaw Farmers Market then? There's a little Crenshaw Farmers Market, like it's like just north of Slauson on Crenshaw.
Mm-hmm.
It's weekly.
Yeah, I don't know on that one. I mean, I've seen her in Hollywood, which is the one that I go to, but I know that those local markets are a big priority. Yeah. What kind of, just curious, what kind of obstacles do you see that you might face in doing this?
Can you say it one more time? I think Eugene is also trying to talk to us and we can't hear him.
Go ahead.
Okay. Were you gonna?
Lynn, do you want to repeat your question?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it's a great project, but I was just wondering what kind of obstacles do you think you will face, in doing this?
I think we'll face a huge obstacle creating the app itself. That's always difficult, just pure logistics, but that's our main one, getting this app into production.
Yeah. I think also something that we heard from Crop Swap was the distribution part. and finding ways to get the food to the person, the logistics of that. So we definitely want neighbor-to-neighbor relationships and for people to talk to each other. And we also we understand the whole app thing and the buy nothing groups and how that can be intimidating because you don't know the person by name and it's just something that you see. So that's another challenge we're trying to figure out. That's a gap that was emphasized when we had a conversation with CropSwap.
Yeah, it would be like, I'm not serious, but it would be like a bumble of like fruit growers. Hey, I've got, lemons, and then someone else wants lemons, and sort of kind of creating this like connection with people based on what they need and what they want. But it would really focus on people in underserved communities, I suppose. But I think we're gonna focus on that demographic because it's important that we start at the bottom, and I think that those people are going to be impacted more. So I think finding those people, I believe, would be the biggest hurdle, is connecting with those people, because those people may not use apps. Those people may not be online all the time. They're working 2 or 3 jobs and they just don't have the time to sit there and say like, hey, I just don't have time, what do I do? And so accessing those people, I think will be pivotal. And then I think one hurdle I don't see is building trust, because I think with our model, with our mission, I think people will see that, and of course, as time passes, building trust in that community is going to get a lot easier. So, hope that answers your question.
I mean, there's always funding, right?
Yeah.
So nobody here is an app developer. We don't have
some.
You're very good at marketing.
Some. I can build an app, but I don't know how to code it.
And then I mean, you can imagine that an app like this could include sponsorships related to food, right? Fresh food, so not McDonald's, right? Not creating more of the same problem, but food type of sponsors, fresh food type of sponsors, healthy food sponsors.
So let me ask a question here about a way of actually moving it forward. And it relates to what you think are what is the easiest way to be able to move this forward? And to even go a little ways towards answering my own question, it would be, what is an analog, kind of an old-fashioned way that you could achieve this kind of aim before you have an app? And is there that kind of way? Because that is something that would be able to get you some on the ground traction, get you a lot of learnings and all right now. The other thing I'd say about an app is that from what I've seen you describe, I think there are off-the-shelf solutions that you could use to build an app like that. So it would need tailoring for food and tailoring, for the specific content and region. But the actual workings of the app is one that by now is something that would probably be more readily available to be able to be picked up and used at probably at a small cost. And so then, if that's the case, then the most important thing I think could be, well, is there this, as I mentioned earlier, this old-fashioned analog approach that could be taken to kind of work through some of the basics of doing this kind of thing and seeing what more of the challenges could be.
I'm just imagining before we had phones, right?
Yeah.
You could go through the neighborhood and you could just map everything out, and you could help make introductions, but that would be an incredibly laborious and you would be the networker, right? You would have to use people as the networker.
And it's shown to be successful. I can imagine all us in orange t-shirts with this big orange and just walking around.
Yes, I guess just like when you do canvassing or you take surveys at markets, we can start getting some people who are interested from there and then have their contact if they want. So slowly rolling it out. I think the one thing that we did think was mapping out fruit trees of neighbors who are interested to be a part of the program, but we were concerned about privacy, but we haven't gone into depth about that yet.
There are analog ways to do it that may not be as specific, because the digital platform is all about precision. But there are things that we can do, like canvassing events, going to even neighborhood to neighborhood, going to farmers markets, setting up stands, even just encouraging people, hey, why don't you talk to your neighbors about the lemon tree you pass by every day? I don't know why I always pick lemons, but encouraging people to look around them and to start talking with those neighbors, start having those conversations. Like if you see someone pruning their tree outside, you start a conversation with them. And that's more, that would be more based in starting a dialogue than creating a platform. But that's still a good analog step towards our end goal of building community to sort of make a buffer against food insecurity.
That's the thing. I think that kind of approach can be really, really interesting and can be really practical, and it would be fun. I think you could get a lot of volunteers, for that. And because you're actually using food as an excuse, to meet people and connect and have fun. That's really interesting, I think, so yeah. Natalie, you're muted right now. Do you want to? We're almost out of time, but do you have anything else to comment on this? This is kind of right in the middle of a lot of work that you've done.
Yeah, I think it's really great. I think the community aspect is going to be your biggest winner, is just gaining trust of the community, getting face-to-face time with people. That is really the way to build anything successful, quite honestly. Is just to get to know your neighbors and take the time to see what's going on, literally and metaphorically. That's literally it, is just going to meet people. That's what's worked for us as well, is just meeting people, showing up, saying hello, getting to know neighbors, picking people's fruit for them, distributing, sharing, breaking bread, making meals, sharing things. One thing I will say is to look at other apps that have already been built and ask them what have been their most difficult things about building their apps, and how, what have been the hardest hurdles for them to cross. That way, when you guys build this out, you know what to look for or how to tweak your design to make it more personable. My friends built an app called Go Galora. The guy, I'm not sure if it's still in function, but he was always bugging me to use it. And I was like, I don't want to. I use my Buy Nothing group. It's just as efficient, but he gave you the option to be able to sell some of your produce too, so that homeowners can profit off of things that they have in abundance. So that was pretty cool. But for me, it's about efficiency. We don't have endless amounts of time, is that we just want things to be really efficient. And if you can have a party at the same time, then I'd rather do that. If there's a party, a gathering of some sort, if we're breaking bread and we're eating and getting to know each other, that's like a win-win. So just advising you to ask other apps that have been already built. We built an app recently to recover food, and we just did it through App Sheets, and it's private, and we have to like vet people, vet our volunteers. Every volunteer also has a scale in their car or a scale on their bike. And it's been really, really efficient. So maybe even coming up with something just through App Sheets and testing it out for a few months, 6 months to a year, and seeing fixing the tweaks and stuff like that before you even make it a bigger thing, could always help as well, because there's always going to be little bugs that need fixing, and there's going to be different issues or people wanting to communicate, like we ask our volunteer pool is like, hey, what would you like to see? What would make this easier? And always getting feedback and data from the people that are using it on a daily basis is also really helpful. But that's all I have to say. Good job. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. Lynn, do you have anything here as we're winding up?
No, I think, I mean, it's envisioning this to come out would be great. I think it's a really good project. And I would just hope at some point that you can also just figure out what else is being done that's similar, and make those kind of connections. So to create a network of the networks in addition of the networks of the community.
Can't let this opportunity go without mentioning our co-founder, John Cobb, who recently passed away at 99. The way he would put it, Lynn, what you just mentioned, network of networks. John was fond of talking about us and everything we're involved with as a community of communities of communities of communities. The way that he would always put it, and there's a lot of wisdom in that. Margot, you have the last word.
So you can hear me. I think your concept is wonderful. I wish you all the best. I think just getting connected with the people is going to probably be the biggest challenge of all. And you seem like you're all a bunch of bright students, and you'll be able to hurdle over that very easily. And I wish you all the best. It's a great need, and I'm sure it's going to help many, many people and build community involvement, which we need in today's world. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Thank you.
All this talk of food, I'm getting hungry.
I know, I have a bunch of snacks over here.
Okay, Natalie, Margot, Lynn, thank you all so much for your comments. And to the team, Cassie and your team, thank you all so much. We're eager to hear more and see how it goes. Our next premier event is in a few minutes, 7:30. It's also from Cal State University Northridge, also food related, but from a different approach. I'm eager to see what the second team has in store for us. In the meantime, we're going to launch a second computer so that we don't have this audio problem that we've had here. So we promise to get that fixed, and we'll be with everybody at 7:30. Thank you.